Hello, my superb Algebra 3 students. We are ready for another exciting online trip. Today, we will graph a hyperbola not centered at the origin. Again, it's not going to be centered at the origin. Let's remember that each hyperbola has two branches. If the transverse axis is horizontal, the branches will open left and right. If the transverse axis is vertical, the branches will open up and down. We're going to look at a general equation for uh, a hyperbola that does not have its center at the origin. So here we've got the quantity x minus h squared divided by a squared minus the quantity y minus k squared divided by b squared equals 1. Now the transverse axis is going to be horizontal because the x term is positive. You see, there's understood to be a positive term in front of this. So the x term is positive and x's go left and right, so the transverse axis is going to be horizontal. The center is going to be h comma k. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this binomial, set it equal to 0, so x equals h. Take this binomial, set it equal to 0, so y equals k. Or you can remember just to take the opposite of whatever the h is or the k is that's inside the parentheses. Now here again is, see these branches is horizontal. See the a square, let me go over here. You see the a square is by the positive term here. So we're going to have a horizontal major axis, and well, transverse axis here. And you see horizontal, see how the branches are opening what, left and right. See the little dashed rectangle, the diagonals that are dashed. Everything is dashed. It's not a part of the graph, but we're using these to help us determine how close together the branches of the hyperbola will be. Here is a general equation for an for a hyperbola not centered at the origin. This time the transverse axis is vertical because the y term is positive. You see, there's understood to be a positive sign right here. And that transverse axis is vertical. And the center is h comma k. We do the very same thing. We take each parentheses, set it equal to 0, x minus h equals 0, x equals h, y minus k equals 0, y equals k. Or again, you could just remember to take the opposite of the numbers here that are inside of the parentheses. And here is a general equation, a sketch here. You see where the y term is positive, which means it's going to have a vertical transverse axis. And over here you see the little dashed rectangle, the asymptotes that are all dashed, and you see how we have the branches opening up and down when we have a vertical transverse axis. Okay. Now we're going to sketch this particular hyperbola. The quantity x minus 2 squared divided by 16 minus the quantity y minus 3 squared divided by 9 equals 1. The center is 2 comma 3. So I took this binomial, the x minus 2, I set it equal to 0, x equals 2. I took this binomial, y minus 3, I set it equal to 0, y equals 3. Or again, you could remember to take the opposite of these two numbers right here, and the center is 2 comma 3. And the transverse axis is going to be horizontal because the x term is positive. See, there's a positive sign understood to be right here, and it's by the x variable, and x is moved left to right, so the transverse axis is going to be horizontal. Now, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to find the a square and the b square. The a square is always below the positive term. The a square is always below the positive term. And since our x term is positive, the a square is going to be 16. You take the square root, you get plus or minus 4, a equals 4. But plus or minus simply means we're going in opposite directions from the center. The b square is 9. B equals plus or minus 3, the b equals 3. And again, the plus or minus simply means we're going in opposite directions from the center. Next, what we're going to do, we're going to sketch the hyperbola's rectangle. And the purpose of sketching the rectangle is so we can sketch the asymptotes. So the very first thing we do, here's the center. See, the center is 2, 3. We're going to always move from the center. The A is 4. Remember, we had the horizontal transverse axis. So from the center, we move 4 units to the right and 4 units to the left. The B was 3. So from the center, we move up 3 units and we move down 3 units. So see those 4 dots on the outside that we're going to use to make our rectangle. So that's what I did. You see the 4 dots on the outside. I dashed the rectangle because remember these dashed lines are not a part of the graph. They're to help us sketch this hyperbola by hand. So then we're going to draw the diagonals of the rectangle. These are the asymptotes. These are the diagonals of the rectangle. These will be our asymptotes. Positive slope, you see negative slope. Then, since our transverse axis is horizontal, see this vertex point right here? Let me put a little V here. Here's like a vertex point and a vertex point. And since the transverse axis, let me move this over so we can see it there. Since the transverse axis is horizontal, then the branches you see, you get on that vertex right there, will be opening what, left and right. And the branches will be getting closer and closer and closer to the asymptotes, but they'll never touch, never cross, never touch, never cross. And when you're viewing this video, always remember, stop, rewind, review. Stop, rewind, review until you understand what's going on. And my love is going out to